Great. Hi, Britta. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Housing Stability Strategic Advisors meeting for January 20th, the new year, 2023. So happy New Year, everyone. We haven't seen you since November. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out if we have a quorum. Looks like Melanie's on, but needs to be made a panelist. There we go. Great. Thanks, Katie. All right. We've got a quorum now, so we'll get started. Thanks for joining, everybody. So today we have our usual start to the meeting with our land acknowledgement, our welcome and roll call, and then we'll do public comments. Then we'll take our vote on the November 18th minutes. We're going to go over governance a little bit, just as a reminder at the beginning of this year, and just to kind of get everybody on the same page. That will include an opportunity to vote for our new chair for 2023. And then, and actually Britta's on. I wasn't sure she was going to make it in time, so we'll probably let Britta go first before we do governance, and then we'll jump to dashboards with Jennifer Bice. She's going to show you what was sent to you, I think in December, to give some feedback on, and has now been launched. So with that, we'll go ahead and move to our land acknowledgement. So the Denver Housing Stability Strategic Advisors honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities, and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities in Denver. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a roll call. It looks like I've got Quika, Jenny. Do we have Myra on? Yep, Myra's here. Is Thomas on? Don't see Thomas.
No, and Josh let me know that he was going to be logging in late.
Okay, Daryl's here. I don't see Kristen. Melanie is here, and I don't see Randy either. Okay. And with that, we'll go ahead and open our public comments. So for any of you who are in the public and want to make any public comments, now is the time to do so. We just ask that you can go ahead and come off mute on your own, and you can just state your first and last name, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody who wants to can just jump in, or you can raise your hand. Any attendees? Okay, with that, if there's none, we'll go ahead and move on to approving our November 18th meeting minutes. So those were sent out with today's invite, and Katie sent them in an email earlier this week with the agenda. Just want to give everybody a moment to make sure that you've had a chance to review those. And with that, can we go ahead and have our advisors come off mute? And if you can go ahead and say yay for approval of the November 18th minutes. Anybody? Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Great, thanks. Any nays? Any abstentions? Great, and with that, our November 18th, 2022 minutes are approved. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and jump to Britta's updates. Katie, if you can go to slide 12 or 13, really. And Britta, we'll go ahead and let you jump on now, and then we'll move to governance after that.
Good morning, everyone. And obviously yesterday I had some big news. I will be resigning my post as Chief Housing Officer and Executive Director of the Department of Housing Stability come February 1st. And the thing that's important to say right after that is the reason why, which is that I will be the next president and CEO of the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. I'm really excited about that opportunity. And at the same time, it's really hard to move away from something that I love here at the city that we've built together. It's something I'm immensely proud of the team we've built and of what our community partners have done and the resources we've expanded. There's many things to talk about, but those were in the email, so I won't recount all of those things. But I am tremendously proud of what we've built here. The second thing that I need to acknowledge is that Melanie has another cute baby. And so, Melanie, do you want to introduce us to the newest member of your household?
Yes, thanks, Britta. You all have been on a journey with me the last few years with babies. So this is Haskell Stephen. He was born the day before Thanksgiving. And so we are figuring things out with two kids, a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, and excited to see all of you today.
Thanks for
Congratulations.
introducing. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I was just going to say congratulations. And I've been there with 2 kids under 2. So I
Yeah.
can.
Oh my
tell you
goodness, look how
Sure.
cute.
Yeah, you can say hi.
Yeah, so
Thank
cute.
you all so much.
Yes, thank you for introducing us to the newest member of your family. Haskell is a cutie. And I love babies, so I'm gonna have to see this baby. Will Haskell come to lunch?
He will be at lunch. Yes. Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, now that I know that I'll get to see a baby soon, we will press on. We have a few other updates beyond that really big update for me. And so we want to make sure that you know about a few other things. We have our data survey as part of the 5-year plan. The operations division we're measuring our impact for Denver residents and host partners to receive efficient, timely, and transparent support and have confidence that host is measuring what matters and that we are effectively engaging the community. And so we have a survey open about our communication and our data, and that is intended to help us really create a baseline measure on our progress towards some of those outcomes. We know it's important how the community sees the information they're looking to see and how we accurately report that, and also really how we're engaging in the community as well. And so Katie is emailing you the link. It was also in our newsletter that was sent out January 5th, if you're like me and need a range of dates to look for in your email. We also have been in an emergency. December 6th, I rang the bell and said that we had hundreds of migrants and asylum seekers really filling up our persons experiencing homelessness sheltering system to the point that we were in an emergency with 150 people who had arrived in 24 hours and needed additional support from our city to make space and to shelter people seeking shelter. So we did, and now here we are on, as of January 18th, we had served 4,380 migrants and asylum seekers seeking shelter in Denver. So as a major transportation hub and only 620-ish miles away from El Paso, we have had many people come through, but for those seeking services and support, seen, more than 4,400 now. We have right now about 900, just floating around 1,000 people a night. The New Year's weekend, I was in the Emergency Operations Center and we were really at almost 2,000. We had 1,900 plus migrants in our shelters that we had set up additionally over our regular 2,100 beds for people experiencing homelessness. So that was quite quite a phenomenon to feel each day as we went from early December having 2,100 in shelter to by the end of December having almost 4,000 people in shelter. So that has been, of course, a huge effort of the city and many partners, not just hosts, but other agencies. For those of you who are familiar with the Emergency Operations Center and our last emergency with COVID, where we had activated that, we were activated for 4 months. And we are already, activated for a couple months here. So these have been some of the largest emergencies in the last decade, just here in the last few years. So it's been an incredible effort to help support folks. We have nonprofit partners that are now offering resources and services as best we can. We still have help and support for people who have a final destination and someone that they're connecting with here in the United States that might not be in Denver. But we also have now hundreds of folks who are looking to stay here in Denver. And for those of you who know the housing landscape so well, it's incredibly challenging for folks to find housing that's affordable, just like for any of us in Denver, but also it is can be more challenging if there's a lack of documentation and so forth. So we have a lot of work ahead of us as well. With that, I will talk then about the emergency on top of the emergency. On top of the emergency. So as COVID continues and the migrant and asylum seeker surge is still here and that we're working actively to support people, we've also had severe weather. Again, a tremendous effort of so many agencies, including the state and the National Guard right before Christmas with the Arctic blast that came in. We continue, as you can all see outside, have significant snowfall and cold temperatures. And so DDPHE is the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment department that is reviewing temperature thresholds for severe weather. And that can trigger our day center warming centers and cooling centers. So when there's extreme weather, they activate, and it also impacts overnight shelter expansion efforts. So the city and the mayor are reviewing some of those policies and making recommendations and are in that process right now. We also have a new transportation contract. For those of you who have been with us for a while, there's been demand for transportation between shelter and service sites. And so HOST has finalized a contract with the Central Student Transportation contractor, which is providing daytime transportation to and from overnight shelter for individuals experiencing homelessness. And this service will complement early morning and late afternoon, evening transportation that's provided by an existing contractor as well. So it's really having this loop transportation that can get people reliably between our sites. So we're eager to have that up by the end of January into early February. And then finally, we'll share some good news of our city's gold medal. Everybody likes to win a gold medal. I've won a couple, none Olympic, but a gold medal's nice. And so here we have our city of Denver has been recognized for our policy advancement. City Health has awarded this gold medal city to Denver and to Boston. So only 2 cities in the country. And we've earned 5 gold medals in categories such as Affordable Housing Trust, which is dedicated affordable housing funds, as well as earned sick leave policies and green space. So great shout out to our DDPHE colleagues, Tristan Sanders, and also to our food efforts as well, Marion Kolb, she's helped with that. So there were a lot of people working on this, but I want to give credit also to our strategic advisors as we make these recommendations on policies. You can see that now we are getting national recognition for what we're doing here in Denver. And I hope you all share in that pride of the gold medal with us here. So with that, I will pause and see if there's questions or comments from our advisors.
I have one, with the migrant sheltering and such increased demand, and just strain on resources. Do you see, I know I don't believe that there's the ability to request FEMA funds, yet or right now, but how do you see that moving forward, just the strain on resources or the ability to bring in resources to help cover that extra need in Denver playing out?
Yeah, it's been an interesting conundrum. At the end of last year, with your very good question, Jenny, it was difficult because there was really no time left in the year to do any budget maneuvering, right? It was December, and for doing contracts or making budget moves, at that window was really gone. So we had to expend funds from our agency budgets, which we're continuing to do into 2023. And then we'll be preparing the 2024 budget. But with such significant emergencies that we've seen in these last few years, certainly it is a concern. The Department of Finance has helped to secure some funding from the state. There were some funds from DOLA as well as some ARPA funds that are being applied for. And so those are welcome resources, but they are not sufficient for what we have already expended in just a couple of months. And so we certainly have concerns about that, but we also have no way to predict how many people will continue to come. We've seen a falling number of folks arriving, but some of that has been weather related as well. Some of it has been due to efforts at the border that have tightened border security, but we don't know if there's another surge to come. And so it's a hard one. And certainly is concerning to the city. You've heard our mayor talk about being at the breaking point. And we're relieved to see that we've been able to support so many people and get people who wanted to go somewhere else onto their next destination. But certainly it's a concern. We have reserves in the city budget, but to do a supplemental this early in a year or things like that would be significant considerations for the overall financial picture of the city. So that's my diplomatic answer to it's really tough.
Well, that was my guess, but thank you for the little bit of more detail.
And Jenny, I'm glad you asked that question. And first, before I ask a question, congratulations, Britta. I know that your leadership of this new department and the work that's involved that folks don't see. I know how much you put your life, family, everything into this. And so it has been just a great honor, serving with you and obviously everyone else on on HASA and then all of the host members. But your leadership is exactly what we needed to stand up this organization. So I first wanted to say that and really thank you and know that you're still extremely close and you're not going far at all. Question, having a supplemental budget focus from whether it's the administration or council may be a big ask so early in the year. I'm curious on, as the department is looking at the budgeting process for 2024, and I know it seems that talk doesn't start till like April, but I'm certain it's happening now. is there a thought process within the city to have a clear set aside? And not for, and I don't see these as emergencies. If you look at the long-term, geopolitical situation with migrants from Central America and the lack of immigration policy nationally, this may be something that is going to be, over the next 5 years, a constant with cities like Denver that's well managed, has really great resources to support, whether it's asylum seekers, migrant folks, or folks just simply migrating from other parts of the country to Denver that have some real basic needs. Is there an opportunity for an ask within hosts, within the budget, within the administration ask for a clear line item to cover some of these costs that could be supplemented by federal dollars, but a real clear line item? And is there thinking around that at this point?
Well, certainly, budgets are a deliberative process that then will be brought forward to council in the future. And you've highlighted several policy questions there, which not all are answerable from my particular seat. But I would say, there's a lot of things on the table here. This certainly was an emergency as an emerging issue that we were not resourced for. However, to your point, the question will remain, is this some level of ongoing business that we need a different line of business or a different approach on? And that's something that will become more clear as we get further into this, and something that, quite frankly, another administration will need to take the lead on in the next budget.
Any other questions for Britta right now? Comments?
I'd like to echo Daryl's thanks, Britta. Always appreciate and always love working with you. And I've had the pleasure to work with you for many years. And I know I'll get to do that into the future as well. So I'm glad you're not going far. And I'm glad you're going to be in the seat that you will be in. And you have worked extremely hard, you and everybody on the team, with the pandemic and the issues like this, the newest challenges with our new migrant residents. And so we'll just really appreciate that dedication and time that you've spent. So thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Well, with that, then I guess we can move to our next agenda item, which is just kind of a bit of a review of our governance. So there are a couple of things that we need to take care of in terms of our bylaws. And so the first thing that we're going to start with is that we need to discuss our new chair, with Daryl having resigned his chairship at the end of past year. So we will be voting on our 2023 HSSA chair. According to our bylaws, this is a 2-year term. And Jenny has come forward and put in the offer that she's interested in this. I think you all got an email from her letting you know that, and have not heard from anybody else if there was other interest. So if so, I wanted to give an opportunity if anyone else wants to come forward with an interest in serving as chair. But otherwise, we can move to a vote on Jenny as the candidate for our HSSA chair.
So moved.
Thank you, Daryl. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Kwika?
Yep.
Great, thanks. And if everyone in favor, can you say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, with that, Jenny is our new chair. Congratulations, Jenny. And
Congratulations,
thank you for
Jenny.
offering.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Daryl. I want to thank you as well for leading us in the last year plus, I guess. And being so organized and kind and compassionate. And so I know I have big shoes to fill, but thank you all. And looking forward to working with everybody, especially during these transitions, and the staff. So to see what we can do as advisors to help through both the transition with Britta and the transition as we have a new mayor. So thank you all. And I will get up to speed on the bylaws and all of the responsibilities once we get off the call.
Thank you, Jenny. Yes, and I want to echo thanks to Daryl for all of your service as chair. It was great being able to work with you in that capacity. And Jenny and I were talking a little bit about the responsibilities of this role. Hi, Josh. And there are a few people that know the way that this works and all of the operating procedures and rules that you have to follow. So it was great having somebody in that role who knows all of that, and we have some learning that we're going to have to do. So we'll be working to fill those big shoes, but we really do appreciate everything that you've done helping us get through this first year plus with that leadership. So thank you, Daryl. Okay. Well, on that note, I did discuss with Jenny that I was going to run this meeting just because we were, had to do that piece of formal business first. So we're going to go ahead and talk about a few kind of general governance things that we want to make sure that everybody's got a little refresher on. So first talking about the bylaws. So I just sent you all an email that has the bylaws attached to them as they were adopted by you all last year. So you've got those in your email just as a reminder. They are relatively short, so it's pretty easy to get through, but HSSA was created by the city within the Denver Revised Municipal Code. So it exists under Division 3, Article 5, Chapter 27. And the purpose of HSSA is really to render advice and recommendations to the executive director of HOST. It names a bunch of different things that you would advise on, including the development and adoption of the 5-year strategic plan, which you all did so wonderfully. Thank you. Our annual action plans, which we do every year, progress reports that we will be making to you every month, like we do with Britta's executive director updates. And Jennifer is going to be showing you some other ways that we want to make sure you're seeing our progress later in today's meeting. And then also obviously advising on the annual budget, which is a big part of what you all do. So we'll talk about how those fit into our calendar this year in just a minute. The other thing the bylaws lay out is that this advisory board is 11 members and that they are 3-year terms. Those were started off staggered so that we wouldn't lose everybody all at once. And so some of you had shorter terms initially, but if you choose to reapply, it is for a 3-year term, just so you know. The 11 members are supposed to include a number of different things that you'll see in those bylaws. So there's 2 with lived expertise in gentrification and housing instability, 2 with lived expertise in homelessness, 2 in affordable or income restricted housing. A member from the philanthropic community. There's supposed to be 2 members who are with organizations that have national best practice perspective on housing stability. And then the mayor and the council are each supposed to get at least 1 representative of the community. So as we work to fill our vacant seats, as you know, with Marcia's having resigned last year and then Maria late last year, we've got 2 vacancies. One of those is a mayoral appointment. The other is a city council appointment. We have reviewed applications and are working with the mayor's office to fill that vacancy, which was Marcia's seat. And then city council actually currently has an open application for Maria's seat. So if any of you know anyone, please encourage them to apply. We're really looking forward to making sure we have a full body as we start all of our conversations moving into this year. So the other thing the bylaws dictate is that we must meet 6 times a year. Last year, as you know, Daryl and Britta and the team had discussed that it was coming out of the 5-year strategic planning process that you all did. It was really important to have further in-depth conversations about each of our divisions and really what that strategic plan ended up saying. And so we spent a lot of time last year diving really deep into those and having some really great conversations to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what's in the strategic plan and how we're getting there. But this year we really felt like we could take that step back to going bi-monthly. We were starting to see a little bit of folks not being able to make it every month. And so wanted to step back to bi-monthly this year with just 6 meetings because we don't have that in-depth content to go over with you again. And so the proposed 2023 calendar meets our requirement in the bylaws for 6 meetings a year. We're proposing 10 to 11:30 a.m. the 3rd Friday of every other month. I did not receive any feedback that that doesn't work for folks, but we can discuss it more here. And then we've got listed here all the dates just so that you have them. But as you'll see, today is the governance discussion, and we're going to talk to you a little bit more about the public dashboards. On the 17th, we will start our conversations about budget priorities for 2024 and how we want to engage the public in those conversations. Jennifer and Laura and I have discussed a lot about how it's really hard to go through an entire budget process and action planning process. And at the end, when we already have a written document, send it out to the public and say, what do you think? Because it's pretty late in the process to be getting their input. And so we really want to move public engagement up way further in the year so that we're hearing from people when there's really a very authentic opportunity to engage with us and give us that feedback. And so you'll hear us talk about that more in March and how we plan to do that. And then hopefully that public feedback can help inform you all as you're advising the hopefully by then we'll have at least an interim executive director, since Britta will be gone at that point, on what the budget priorities ought to be for next year or what you'd like to see them be. We'll have additional conversation on that in May. And then there's the deliberative process with the mayor's office as they look across the city at all of the priorities that they have to balance. As they are having those deliberative conversations with your feedback in mind, we'll go ahead and start working on our 2024 action plan priorities and putting those together in our meeting in July. And then in September, we will hear what's in the mayor's proposed budget. And we will ask you to approve our 2024 action plan so that we can put it out for public comment. And then in November, we will bring that back to you in its final form for a formal approval, which is just what we did this last year. So any questions about the proposed calendar? Any concerns about dates there? Comments?
Sabrina, looks like Josh has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Josh, I didn't see that.
Yes, sorry. I actually had a question about the open seats. Given the requirements stated in the bylaws, are there specific requirements for the open seats? I mean, as we think about those things, I mean, that we need to find someone that has these kind of credentials or experience.
Yeah, and I'm looking at those right now. It does look to me from, and I may actually be sending you all some questions. I've been pulling from your original applications. We had kind of a crosswalk of all of those things previously, and I'm redoing that right now. We knew with Marcia, we were looking with someone for lived expertise in homelessness and or housing instability. But I'm kind of redoing that right now because between those 2 seats, it kind of it depends on which direction the mayor and the council goes in terms of filling those and who moves faster to get it done. So I can let you know that for sure once I get that whole spreadsheet figured out. It's just changed a lot since the initial folks that we had. So
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
great question. Thank you.
Randy has his hand up.
Who did?
Randy.
Oh, hey, Randy.
Hi. I thought I'd seen somewhere that we were also going to discuss the option of starting to meet in person instead of Zoom.
We sure are. It's on our next slide.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you
I'm
for that
sorry.
great
Jumping
segue.
ahead.
I didn't forget. Randy reached out to me. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what worked last year and what we could improve this year. And one of the things that had come up was that Randy had reached out and said, is there any interest? Would people want to be doing in-person meetings again? Like, are we at a
Yes.
point where people would like to do that? And I know Daryl had considered that last year. And I think we tried to do some in-person, get-togethers for, folks to have outside of the regular meeting schedule, but as well. So we can talk about that as well. But I think one of the other pieces of feedback that I've received is that sometimes the hybrid model where you're doing part online, some folks online and some folks in person can be really difficult. So just wanted to hear from you all in terms of, how would you like to do that? Do you want to try a couple of meetings in person? Do you want to try to stick to virtual? What works best for you? And wanted to get your feedback.
Can I just say, the reason I brought it up was I personally get a lot more out of meetings when we're meeting face to face. I tend to retain more. I think I get more from face to face contact with people. It's very difficult for me on Zoom meetings.
Sure. I appreciate that. I think that's true for a lot of folks.
I would welcome any opportunity to meet in person. If I'm honest, I feel a little bit over the reality of Zoom. It's a great tool. And so perhaps not every time of each of the 6 meetings has to be in person, but if we scattered some in, like I certainly wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, I know I brought this up too with you, Sabrina. I would value meeting in person, and I'm interested to hear from others if that would be a barrier. So I think the mix could be good. But I think it would be nice to be in person at least some of the time. And some of us have never met in person, or many of us have never met in person.
Yeah, I agree with what both Josh and Jenny just said, and having a mix, so that people have options. And maybe we could alternate meetings, or depending on what's on the agenda, look at, strategically when we might want to be in person versus virtual.
I just want to put out there from the logistical perspective. I do record these meetings on Zoom, and then we post them on the website so that the public can view them. So we would just have to take that into consideration and how we would record a meeting in person, or if we did a hybrid model, we could still utilize the Zoom recording as well. So that's just like the first thing in my brain is trying to figure out how to do that so that people can see these after the fact. But I would also welcome meeting you all in person. I don't think I've ever met any of you in person. So
No way.
Great.
Okay.
I'm just curious with the snow on the ground to hear maybe from Randy about accessibility.
Yeah. Yeah, because the city of Denver does crap as far as removing snow and getting it out of the curb cuts and everything. But as long as we have it somewhere close to downtown, I can usually make it.
I think maybe Randy, from when you were on the hack, I remember the winter being really the toughest time with the snowstorms. And so if you're thinking about doing maybe 3 of them in person or something, maybe think about doing it in slightly less snowy months, but now snow happens from like September through June. So I don't know that we'll ever fully miss that, but you just may want to think about that in the scheduling of in person.
Yeah, I was just looking, our next meeting is March 17th, which is typically one of our snowiest months, right? So maybe we start after that. And in the nicer, so that would be March, May, and July, I think, trying for those. Or
May would be the next one, and that would work for me.
Okay, great. So we'll plan for March to be virtual still, and then we'll look at May, July, and maybe September as being in person with, we'll still, I think to Katie's point, we'll still do a virtual option for the public, but and anybody who can't make it in the event of snow or something, but make it a point to try to have that be in person for as many folks as we can. And then maybe we'll plan for November to be virtual again, since likely snow by November 17th. So great. Okay. That sounds like a plan. We will get that included on your calendar items with a room number at the web building. So we'll update that as soon as we can. Okay, and then the other thing is Jenny and I had some conversation about, really thinking about what worked last year and what we can improve. I think one of the really critical pieces of your role and the purpose of HSSA is really about a feedback loop for us, right? It's helping to advise the executive director from what you're hearing and seeing in your work and in the community. And so we really want to make sure that we have opportunities for you to talk with us about that. So last year, again, we spent a lot of time doing kind of deep dives into each of our divisions and what's in the strategic plan to make sure that you fully understood that when out talking with the community. But really this year, want to make sure that we're giving much more time to hear from you about what are you hearing in the community. So we were thinking a little bit about, wanting some discussion around how would you all feel if on every agenda we had a standing agenda item for the purpose of getting feedback from each one of you, so that we'd kind of have, we'd go round robin and make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to say, like, here's what I'm hearing, here's what I'm seeing, this is some feedback I got, here's some concerns that I've had or am hearing from the folks in my network. Does that sound like something you guys would like to spend time on? Jenny, did you want to add anything else to that since we discussed it?
No, I think you gave a good summary. Yeah, I think we all come with so much knowledge and connections and probably conversations that are happening between these meetings that I think is really valuable. It would be nice. I think being in person will help a little bit with that, but keeping some space for those updates and open discussions seemed like a good way to at least start, but totally open to other ideas for how to do that.
Great, thanks.
I love that idea. I just gonna say, I think it's fantastic. I think it's necessary. It just was, it's so helpful when I'm hearing as a former chair, hearing the voices of the advisors and kind of the specific communities that you meet with in between all of these HSSA meetings. So yeah, anything that facilitates that, Jenny and Sabrina and team, I just think is fantastic.
Saw a lot of heads shaking yes, so I think we'll go ahead and do that unless I hear otherwise from folks. But I think if one of the things I'll want to just remind you is when we send out the agenda, we'll have that on there. Just remember, we would love to hear from each and every one of you. So if you can just come prepared, maybe spend a couple minutes before the meeting thinking about what the feedback is you've been hearing that you'd like to share with the team, that would be great. And then I think the other question I really have for you as the Director of Communications and Community Engagement is just to really understand how we can help provide you with more or better info, different info. I believe you're all signed up to get our monthly newsletter that we send out. So hopefully you're getting some good information and updates there. We really endeavor on our team to send out updates to you all when we have big news happening or something that we know that you might need more information about, whether that's, migrant sheltering or any number of things that come up for us. My general rule is if my leadership team needs talking points so that they can talk to the community about what's going on, likely you need them as well. So I try to make sure you guys get those updates and emails with that information. Anytime we're sending information to City Council to keep them updated, we try to make sure we're also sending that information to you in email. I recognize, though, that sending an email to you is not always probably just the best way to engage in conversation or to make sure that you've got the information you need and that it makes sense to you, or to get feedback from you. So it's just kind of hard with us meeting only every other month. I feel like email is often the best way for us to just make sure you have the information. So I just want to invite, encourage, and welcome that if you get those emails from me and they don't make sense, or you have questions, that you can reach out and call, you can email me back. We can set up a meeting to discuss them further. And also just really that would love to hear any feedback like, oh yeah, I'm hearing a lot about this in the community. or gee, I haven't heard anything about this. It doesn't seem to be a concern to folks. Those kinds of things are just really good for us to know and be hearing from you all. So just want to invite that more. Are there other things that would be helpful, especially as we go to a bi-weekly cadence, just in terms of you feeling like you're updated and have the information that you need from us? Anything that's particularly helpful that we should continue doing?
I would say something that's helpful is whenever possible, like having things as far in advance as possible to make sure that we have time to read and digest and really give thoughtful feedback is useful. Sometimes when it's a day or two, which sometimes that is just necessary because things are moving so fast. I know I haven't always been able to kind of as thoughtfully, read through things as I'd like to.
Yep. Great. And I know Jennifer and I have been doing a lot of work on planning things like our annual report and our action plan for this year, and trying to figure out how do we maximize time for both your review and for public review. It's always a little challenging, especially when we're trying to correspond with budget that we don't control. Jennifer, did you want to add to that?
I was just gonna ask a question if I could, because we are really doing a lot of upfront work planning around those processes, as Sabrina said. And I would love to know, like, the action plan is a pretty long document. I know it's like 50, 60 pages. Some of it is more skimmable than other parts. About how much time, like in an ideal world, recognizing we've got some limitations sometimes, in an ideal world, like how much time feels appropriate for an advance notice of a document of that length?
So since I had raised this, I'll start. I'm curious what others, my immediate thought is like a couple weeks, like sometimes the same week is just hard for something of that length if things are already kind of crazy and booked up. But if I have, that extra week, I can factor in and schedule some time to be able to really review things thoughtfully.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So,
Daryl?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And then I'll jump back in with some other ideas and see if people have thoughts on this question from Jennifer.
Does 2 weeks sound about good? We can also send out a calendar invitation, like when we think it will be coming to you, so that you can have that on your calendar and then try to plan when you've got space between that and the next meeting, if that's helpful. Okay, great. Daryl, did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, and I'm always great with ideas, especially if I don't have to execute on them. So don't ask me for ideas because I'm going to throw them out. And I'll say one thing, Jennifer, on the action plan and Sabrina, it's pretty stable, a lot of the kind of the quadrants within the plan. And I think if there's a highlighted like extreme change, like this is going to be kabam, it's going to look very different. I think highlighting that, I think that's helpful, but there's great stability in our action plans, at least the last two. And so some of it may be redundant and folks may not have to have a call to action on it. So maybe highlighting that would be great. Some of the crazy ideas that if you rule the world that I'm thinking of, I'm not sure the participation with council members and really having a host kind of window in each of their newsletters on things for like upcoming action plan process that we're doing, or a whatever you see of import within each of the districts. Not everyone reads the newsletters from council, but if there's an opportunity from council staff to agree that, hey, we'll give host a window, just a little small square in the bottom of their newsletter each month to have a host update, that may be very helpful. Also for our folks who leverage our libraries as the everything easy button for everything. Most of the elders in our communities go to the library and that's where they get information from. Is there an opportunity with Denver Public Libraries to have a participation for quarterly updates from host or something, so that even if we're not touching our elders and other communities that leverage a library for their technology needs and their drop-in needs, that we have a strong library partner. And the last thing with Denver Parks and Rec centers, they use oftentimes, they have these little screens in some of the rec centers, and I go to 20th Street Gym a lot, and there's a lot of folks who are dealing with housing instability, a lot of folks who are unsheltered who actually use that gym. quite frequently. I think they all have these little video screens where they sometimes put pop-ups or information. Don't know who uses those, who leads on those, but I'm thinking of ways not just informing us, but informing community more, so community can then inform us as we provide advice to you. Those may be 3 institutions that I think may be helpful in getting the word out beyond where we can get the word out, at least kind of institutional communication and not so much grassroots communication.
That's super helpful. Thanks, Daryl. Just so you know, we do send updates to council and ask them to share them in their newsletters. They don't always do that. They've also since hired a communications person for all of council to try to help them put together like their newsletter content. So we're going to be working with that person a lot more too. So great ideas that hopefully are coming to fruition as we speak. Libraries, great partner for us in many ways, as are the rec centers. Those are pieces of information I can take as we hire our 2 new community engagement officers. So I don't know if you all recall, but that was one of the asks we had in our budget this past year. Those positions are currently posted right now. So if you know people who would be interested in coming to work on my team for community engagement, we're really, really excited about those new positions. And those are exactly the types of things that we expect to see them doing in the next year, is lots more engagement. We've talked about regional forums about our work with neighbors. And I think libraries would be a great place to do that, rec centers as well, but also just really being a lot more proactive about getting that information into community in those types of places. And also being available in person and really developing relationships with, you know, trusted messengers in the community and those types of things. So we're very excited about that. If you know anyone, please have them apply. I think that posting is going to be open for about another week, and it will be in our newsletter. So please share broadly or just refer people to me and I can get them the links. We're really excited about that opportunity. And we are looking for somebody who has Spanish speaking skills as a plus, if at all possible, for one of those positions at least. So those are great pieces of feedback. Anybody want to add anything else to, you know, what worked, what we can improve?
Randy and Melanie have their hands up.
Great. Randy, go ahead.
I just want to add, as far as the community engagement, I think it's so important because whenever there's articles about what Host is doing and about some of the great things that have been happening lately, like the buying the hotels and stuff like that, there's always such negative comments I see. And I know that's going to happen. People are always going to say, oh, why are we spending money on this? Blah, blah, blah. We're throwing money away, blah, blah, blah. And they're the exact same people that would complain because there's homeless people out on the street. But I just think it's very important that we continue to engage with the community and educate them as to what the Host is doing and what the city's trying to do to solve this problem.
Absolutely. Thank you. Melanie?
So I had a question about folks applying for the open spots. If I know of someone that applied like a couple of months ago and they hadn't heard anything back because I think it's still open. So would that be the message that if you've applied, your application is in there for consideration and you haven't heard anything back yet because those are still being accepted and reviewed? Or should we have them reach back out?
So if you want to let me know who that is on the side, I can double check that I have their
Okay.
application. But yes, what has generally happened is that Marcia's seat we had open and we were working on that with the mayor's office. I believe they will be making a decision on that fairly soon.
Okay.
The city council seat, they have a separate process they use. And if you want to apply for that, you have to do it separately. It's not the same as the mayoral seats,
Got it.
unfortunately. I have let them know that we can share our applications with them, but it is a different application process actually. So I think once we have a decision from the mayor's office on who they're selecting, then we will probably get back to those other applicants and let them know that the city council seat is open as well and how they can apply for it.
That makes sense. But I'll send you an email just to double
Okay,
check.
that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. So with that, we are actually even a few minutes ahead on our agenda. And so we're going to go ahead and give the floor to Jennifer to give you guys an update on our really cool dashboards that I am super, super excited about. So I think we're going to go ahead and turn our, well, maybe I'll just, we'll turn our PowerPoint off for a moment because Jennifer's going to do a screen share with you so she can show you what is live on the website.
Thanks, Sabrina, and it's good to be here with you all. Sorry I had to miss the first part of the meeting, but Happy New Year in 2023. Really excited to be here this morning to talk about new content to our strategic plan dashboard. So, you know, I presented, can't remember how many months ago now, but earlier in 2022 with the first few pages of our strategic plan dashboard that really focused on key highlights for host activities and our progress toward our big kind of 5-year targets in the plan. The data strategy and policy team here at Host has been diligently working to build out more detailed pages of that dashboard that align with all of the goals in our strategic plan and also really align to the impact framework in the strategic plan that tries to chart out how do all of these activities of Host's work drive outcomes, which drive these big impacts that we're working toward. And so we've released a few additional pages here at the end of 2022, early 2023, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just walk you through some of that new content briefly. And Katie, I am getting a notification that the host has disabled participant screen sharing. Could you help me navigate that?
Yes, just one moment. Sorry about that, Jennifer.
No worries.
Try now.
Thank you so much, Katie. Right. So this page of our website should hopefully look familiar. It's our 5-year strategic planning page. This is where our dashboard lived when we put out the first information of or iteration of it, and it is still here. I'll also walk you through a few other places where you can find that content in just a second. But wanted to spend just a minute demoing some of the new pages. So here's our dashboard. One thing that we did hear feedback on as we surveyed folks is just accessibility. Font size obviously is small here, so we're working on some of those things into 2023. But just a reminder, you can click this full screen mode, it makes things a bit bigger. So this contents page probably looks familiar, but these are all buttons that you can click. And if those pages are live, you can click them and go straight there to see more information, or you can use the arrows down at the bottom to navigate. The pieces that were available in 2022 are these first 2 pages around highlights and 5-year targets, as well as kind of some documentation pieces around definitions and data notes. And then the pieces that are new are these in the middle on our specific pillars of work. You'll see there's one page that is still listed as coming soon, and it's our page dedicated to advancing equity. The reason that one is still coming soon is because we want to finish some 2022 kind of year-end data wrap-up processes that we have here internally, and then post a fresh page based on that updated data. So that should be coming here in the next quarter or so. So I will just briefly do a quick reminder of some of the pages we had last time. So this is our highlights page, really meant to show some of the things that move more frequently here at Host. You can see some of those key activities that we're working on, where those activities align to a specific plan goal. You'll see that goal amount listed below. And so these, and you also have the dates when those data were last updated. Our 5-year targets page is also now live. So these are some gas gauge indicators. So hopefully looks familiar to when we're all driving around. You will see that some of these are all gray right now. That's because we only have one data point. So the gas gauge can't move through that chart until we have at least 2 data points. But where we have at least 2 data points, you'll see our progress toward our goal here in this chart. We do have a few metrics that are still listed as coming soon. Those are items that we are currently benchmarking. So we have, for example, a survey out right now around our communications tools and our data tools, and some work wrapping up around benchmarking household mobility. So those pieces will be coming. And then these are some of our newer, more detailed. Oh, and Sabrina, I see we have a couple of folks with their hands raised. I'd be happy to pause and take questions.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to go ahead and call on folks, and I will too as I see them. I think Jenny's got her hands up.
I don't know if Randy, I see yours is up. I don't know if it was up for this or it's still up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm on the host website and I'm looking for where I find what was up there on the screen.
That is a great point, Randy. I will do a little bit of a demo on how to find it as we we have some new ways to do that. So I'm going to do that.
Because I'm looking at this on my phone and I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I was just going to quick ask on the last, this one, when you were mentioning that there are some of these, there's nothing filling the wheel because we just have one data point, and is the second part of that we have one data point and we don't have that piece of data yet, or is it that we have only one and so there wouldn't be a reporting yet because we only have one?
Good question. So for these charts, what you'll see is that there's a fairly consistent format. On the left-hand side will be our baseline number from the 5-year strategic plan where we that's written into the plan where we have it. So for our goal to increase the percentage of income restricted homes, we have a 7% here. Our goal is to get to 8%. We are showing data for based on 2022 forward in these gas gauge charts. And so for something like the percentage of income restricted homes, we part of that comes from census data. So we have one update so far. When we have when the new census data comes out, we'll have an update and we'll have that second data point. So this will start to populate. Another example of that is our unsheltered reduction. So this 1,313 is our 2022 point in time count number. Here in the next several months, we'll have our 2023 number. So this will start to fill in. So these are all items that if they have a number in here, they have at least one data point. And if they have some amount colored in, then there's at least 2 data points.
I see what you're saying. 2 data points meaning a beginning or beginning. And I know I know where some of this comes from just because I helped you work on it. But the beginning, you're saying the 1 data point is where we start on the wheel and then we need some sort of update to fill the wheel. Is there something on here that just sort of a little note that mentions that so that if people come on here, they think that it doesn't mean that there's movement? There's no movement, I mean?
I don't think it is on this page. I'll have to double check the data notes and kind of documentation pages, but I can certainly, well, there's the visual guide up here at the top.
Okay, yeah, just
and
something
so I think
you might want to add so that there aren't people who assume that there's no activity or nothing happening.
Yep. Yeah, I can bring that feedback back to the team. Like if there's some text that we could hover over here or something like that to just give a little bit more explanation. Questions? All right, and I will say I'm on one screen right now, so I might not see everybody who has their hands raised. So Sabrina and Katie, if you can help me facilitate that or let me know when to
No
pause. If you
problem.
guys have questions, that would be awesome.
Will do.
So this next pillar page, you'll see a consistent format for this page and the next 4 pages in total, including this one. And so these are really our deep dive pages into each of our areas of work. With these pages, as I said, we really wanted to align to the strategic plan goals and our impact framework that charts out how are some of these actions or activities aligned to measures and impacts for our community. One thing I will note that you'll see in all of these charts is that sometimes we have kind of these bar charts that only have 1 year so far. That's because we have 2022 data in. Once we start to have 2023 data, you'll see 2 charts and these will build out over the course of the plan so we can track our progress year over year in the same tool. You'll also see some different filter options. So if you really want to look into rental housing, for example, here you can select that filter, or if you just want to see for sale, you can do that. So there's a little bit of interactivity embedded here as well. And then we've built out pages for each part of our work. As I said, we do have a number of items in our housing stability space that are listed as coming soon. We have some research that we're wrapping up currently around mobility in partnership with some DPS data. And then we're also doing some work around evictions and foreclosures. So additional items coming soon here. And then this is our homelessness resolution page. So here you'll see, as I was mentioning, a lot of those bar charts with 2022 information, those will continue to populate as we have additional years of the plan and a few more metrics coming soon here as well. And then this last page is our operations pillar page, and that is has a little bit of a different format since that was embedded in our impact framework in a slightly different way. So you'll see our really key metrics here around making our contracting times, procurement times, and invoice processing times improve. We also have goals around our percentage of partners trained on reporting systems, satisfaction with those trainings. Then you'll also see here for things like our citywide and regional approaches, we're highlighting more narrative updates in this space in alignment with that section of the plan. That I will pause and just do a little bit of a demo on how to navigate. So this is our denvergov.org/housing kind of main landing page for the Department of Housing Stability. And one thing we did while developing these additional pages is place the dashboard in more sections. So if you are interested in information on housing opportunity, for example, you can click that tile, and we have embedded the housing opportunity page of the dashboard right there so you can see it. You can again do that full screen mode, but this also takes you to the full dashboard. So you can click in and see any page you want, but we're just featuring that content for housing opportunity in that housing opportunity tab. So that will work for any of our main pages. So those are just a couple of examples. And then in terms of how to get to our 5-year strategic plan page, it's a few more clicks. So you go into the About Us section and plans and reports, and then you can find our 5-year strategic plan page, which takes you to where I was at the start of this demo. But the good news is there's lots of different ways to get to this content. So hopefully that makes it a little easier than it was when we had initial info up last year. And I see we've got a number of questions, so I will pause. And
I was just going to jump in there and also say that an easy way to get to the 5-year strategic plan is just denvergov.org/housing 5-year plan. That's the vanity URL for it. So if you need that, it makes it a lot faster to get there. instead of having to navigate through. And Katie and I are still working on a lot of updates to the site. So, you know, if you guys think this is content that you'd like to see on the main page or have our strategic plan linkable from the main page, we can always look at doing that too. That's great feedback for us to have as we go. Let's see, I'm trying to see who's got hands raised. Let's go to Randy.
Thank you. I think it would be great to put a lot of these links on the main page. I have found all along that it's very difficult to navigate your page. And I've heard that from other people as well. So I think a lot of links, the 5-year plan, a lot of stuff should have really simply accessible links on your main page.
Okay, that's great. We are working on a complete revision of the landing page. So if there are specific things that you know you'd like to have there, like the 5-year plan, if you guys let me know, we can work on building those in. Thanks, Randy. I see a hand up from somebody who's got their name as social equity in our attendees list. So if you want to go ahead and come off mute and just introduce yourself with the first and last name, we'd appreciate it. And I've taken you off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
All right, sorry about that. I don't have the controls to rename myself, but I'm Aaron Conley with the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. So thanks for letting me sort of sit in on your meeting here. One of the thoughts that I had as you were, Jennifer, going through those 4 deep dive pages is that is there a way maybe to coordinate with hosts EDI team, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team, and build those 4 deep dives into their strategies there so that we can have some good sort of cross-departmental collaboration happening between maybe the efforts of our office that we're overseeing and the really good work and metrics that you all are already engaged with, right? I think it could be a really easy sort of blending of concerns here and interesting and innovative way to maybe even display our data that we already have in multiple places.
Jennifer, do you want to take that or you want me to?
I can start, Sabrina, and then would love your thoughts too. Yes, so thank you so much for joining. And so I think certainly we want to use our dashboards not only as public facing tools for transparency, but also tools for our internal team to really drive our work in meaningful and data informed ways. So would love, as we're working internally with our host EDI team, figuring out how we can bring that as a resource and figure out how that works all together for sure. And then I think the other page that's forthcoming that will really show our progress toward reducing racial disparities in our housing outcomes will also be a really critical tool for our internal team as well as our external partners and broader community. So Sabrina, I'll turn it to you if there's anything you would add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. So one of the things we just recently did is we actually added an equity page to our website. So we have that information with kind of what our primary goals are from the strategic plan. These dashboards are really focused on our strategic plan goals. And so as Jennifer's team is working on the equity dashboard, that will focus on the specific things that are in the strategic plan. Our EDI team is working on, I believe with you guys, using those same goals and measures because we had different ones previously. So I think they're working on aligning all that with you, or at least last I spoke with them. But we are also going to be featuring them, our ORESA survey and some of their other work on our equity page in addition to the equity dashboard. So I'm happy to work with you on that. And just as an additional note, because this is what I thought you were going to bring up, is Jennifer and I have had a lot of conversations about translation of these dashboards. Our website is translatable using Google Translate, which we know isn't the perfect tool, but it works. And all of our big documents like our strategic plan, our action plan, our annual reports get automatically translated into Spanish. So we've been looking at how we can do that with these dashboards, and I would love to get your input from your office's perspective on how to best do that with dynamic dashboards like this. We were thinking about doing a guide that kind of shows people the the content that doesn't change, and then they would be able to look at the numbers that are dynamic. But it's a little complex, and I've been reaching out to a number of folks throughout the city to get feedback on that. So if you want to get in touch with me, I would love to chat more about it.
Excellent, Sabrina. I don't mind doing that at all. And so
Great.
what I'll do is loop you in with both our data team and our digital equity team.
Great, that would be fantastic. Thank
Cool.
you so much. Jenny, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just, that's a fascinating conversation. Sounds great. I just wanted to reiterate what Randy said about making sure these are on the main page as well, because I do think a lot of the public and people aren't going to necessarily know that this is tracking or care that it's tracking against a specific document, but they are going to be interested to see progress. And so not having to go through the 5-year plan page to me makes a lot of sense for the public.
Okay, great. That's super helpful. Thank you. Yeah, and Jennifer and I are also working on another piece of work that is going to be similar to the dashboard, and we'll probably end up embedding some of these pieces from the dashboard and some of our other documents into it. That's kind of a bit of more of a high level. We're going to have a 1-pager and then sort of a story map that's like a big page on the website that will be much longer with more embedded information and a little more narrative on kind of just explaining, what the problem is that problems are that we're trying to address in the city, and then, how we're doing against that at a bit of a higher level, because these dashboards have a lot on them. There's a lot of content there. And so we're going to try to sort of draw that up into a bigger picture summary that can be helpful both as we enter election season and people are talking about these issues a lot out there, and also just, as a tool for people to use at a bit of a higher level. So that is coming as well, which again, will supplement this and I think be kind of the higher level big takeaways that come out of all of this other really incredible complex data that Jennifer's team's done such a good job trying to summarize and get into a visual for us to use. So
That's great. Thanks.
other questions or comments for Jennifer? Anything else you wanted to go over, Jennifer?
I would just add that I know I went over that like very quickly, and you'll probably have questions as you start to click around and get to really interact with the new content in the tool. So just to also put in a plug that you can always reach out to me and let me know what questions you have, or if there are things you would like us to go into more in this space. We want to make sure that that's an informative tool for you all as our advisors.
Thanks. All right, well, that is it for our planned content today. Does anybody have other questions, comments, anything you want to share as we think about that new agenda item we're going to be adding to future meetings, things you're hearing out in the community that would be helpful for folks to know about? Man, I just realized this is going to be Britta's last HSSA meeting, the last huzzah.
Looks like Randy has a hand up. Randy, you want to go ahead?
Can't put all those little emojis up, like sad faces or celebration hearts. We would, Britta, if we could.
Go for it, Randy.
Britta, I just wanted to say thank you. It's been great working with you. I think you've done wonderful setting this department up and getting it going. Wish you the best of luck with a great organization that you're going to. And also, I want to say, Daryl, thank you for your leadership over the last year. I know a lot of people said all this at the beginning, and I missed it. I got here late because I was in another meeting. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Randy.
And I'll second everything Randy just said, both about Britta and Daryl, just both of your leaderships. And Britta, we're going to miss you in this space, but very excited for your new role and seeing everything you're going to do there and continuing to partner.
Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Randy.
Well, thank you all. We're so appreciative. Britta, did you want to say something before we close?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. And it's probably like thematic. I seem to say thank you at the end of meetings quite a bit, but to all the staff who prepared material today and for so many other meetings, I want to say thank you. I think, you know, how we show up in these public spaces is important, and I really appreciate the diligence of the team in thinking through how we can take many complexities and make them transparent and as simple as we can. So thank you for that. And thank you, Housing Stability Strategic Advisors, for your advisement of me and of this team. I always appreciate your feedback, your perspectives. I think it's really important that those of us who work in city government hear directly from the community and have forums where we get that feedback. So I'm encouraged by the new item for the Housing Stability Strategic Advisors, and I appreciate that there's certainly public comment, but also those surveys and other ways of getting feedback directly from stakeholders. I know that I have certainly appreciated in this role those direct meetings with community providers, with residents who are currently experiencing homelessness or housing instability. Those comments, letters, I read them all and have taken all of that to heart. And so I would encourage that exchange to continue happening into the future. That said, I can't say enough about how proud I am of what we've done in a short amount of time. I think about my 23 almost years of advocating in this space in Denver and in Colorado. And I think about when I started, we were just trying to get anyone to pay attention to affordable housing or to homelessness, and to have been the first executive director of the Department of Housing Stability, and to see the attention, the resource, and the shared pain of our community that has driven us to have a greater and better response. I'm really proud to have set this up, and so pleased that so many professionals and so many community members have given so much to help our city grow in this way. So with all of that, thank you all.
Thanks so much, Britta. Just as a quick reminder, our next meeting is March 17th. You should have that in your calendar. If you have any questions, let us know. Thank you so much for attending today, and Happy New Year again, and we will see you in March.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.